I always thought I knew my family, until the day I dug up a box in my garden and found evidence that they had been hiding things from me my entire life. I was kneeling in the dirt, hands scratched and red from stubborn roots, when my trowel hit something solid. Not a stone, not a root, something deliberate. I dug faster, heart hammering, until a small, rusted metal box emerged from the earth. And when I wiped the dirt away, I saw it, my full name, written carefully on the lid in handwriting I didn't recognize. At first, I laughed nervously, a short, brittle sound that didn't reach my eyes. "Who would bury something for me out here?" I murmured. But the laughter died when I realized how deliberate it all felt. This wasn't random. Someone wanted me to find it. I carried the box inside, the afternoon sunlight catching dust motes floating in the living room like tiny ghosts. My husband wouldn't have been here to tell me it was probably nothing. Only me. And the quiet of this house, always a little too still even when the grandchildren ran through it, pressed in on me. I set the box on the coffee table and ran my fingers over the latch. Rust cracked under my touch, and I could feel the weight of what was inside. Not heavy, not light, just expectant. I smelled the faint aroma of lemon cookies I had baked earlier, mingling with the old wood of the floorboards, and my mind wandered to memories I hadn't visited in years. My children, bright, careless, trusting once, now seemed distant, as if the very air between us had hardened over time. "Grandma!" Lily's small voice startled me. My youngest padded in, barefoot, clutching her frayed stuffed rabbit. "What are you looking at?" I forced a smile. "Just an old box, honey. Nothing for you to worry about." She frowned. "Can I see it?" I hesitated, feeling a strange tug in my chest. There was innocence in her question, a pure curiosity I didn't want to crush. "Not right now," I said gently. "It's complicated." Her frown deepened, and she ran upstairs, leaving me alone with the box. I exhaled slowly. This box, it wasn't just metal and rust. It was a key, a doorway, a warning. My mind drifted to the last time I had felt truly betrayed, that bitter ache that never quite leaves you. Betrayal in a family isn't always loud. Sometimes it hides in the spaces between words, in the things left unsaid, in the way a child suddenly looks at you like you're a stranger. I remembered Michael, my eldest, in the kitchen years ago. His voice low, eyes nervous. "Mom, there are things you don't know about us. Things you were never meant to find out." I'd thought then, what could he possibly hide? I'd held him as a baby, soothed scraped knees, wiped away tears. I knew him better than he knew himself. And yet, even then, I felt small, fragile, exposed. I lifted the latch carefully. Inside were folded papers, neat and deliberate. My name appeared again on the first envelope, but the handwriting wasn't mine, wasn't Michael's or Sarah's. It was foreign, careful, almost secretive. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. It was a letter. And it wasn't truly addressed to me. Not directly. It was meant for whoever would discover it after I was gone, whoever would need to understand the truths I had never known. The first lines stopped my breath. Apologies, warnings, confessions of old mistakes. Alliances and debts. Names of people I'd never met but whose lives had intersected with mine in ways I didn't understand. My chest tightened. My children, my own children, had been hiding this from me. How long? How carefully? I felt betrayed, yes, but also sorrowful. This wasn't just secrecy, it was fear, protection, the convoluted love of a family trying to survive its own mistakes. Michael appeared suddenly in the doorway. He hadn't knocked, he rarely did. "Mom, you sounded upset." I looked at him, reading the tension in his jaw, the way his hands fidgeted. "I'm fine," I said quietly. "Just thinking about the garden." He stepped closer. "Mom, Sometimes it's better if we don't dig up the past. I laughed, brittle and sharp. Better? Michael, I've buried things in this garden myself. I know what it's like to hide the truth. But the truth, it always comes out. He flinched. I didn't mean. I raised a hand. I know. I know. But even as I said it, I felt the weight of betrayal pressing on my chest. The box, the letters, the careful secrecy, it wasn't just Michael. All my children had conspired, even silently, to shield themselves from truths I was now forced to confront. The afternoon sun slanted across the room, and I noticed the faint scent of old paper mixed with dust. It reminded me of libraries I loved as a girl, the smell of leather-bound books, of stories waiting to be discovered. Now I was the reader, the witness, the keeper of a story I hadn't asked for. The next envelope revealed photographs. Faces blurred, moments I hadn't remembered. Michael, younger, holding hands with someone unfamiliar. Sarah, laughing in a doorway with a stranger. And in the corner of one photo, almost hidden, a figure whose eyes seemed to pierce right through me. I knew that face. But how? How had I never seen them before? The house settled around me, groaning softly as if sharing in the tension. The box, the letters, the photos, they demanded acknowledgement. And though part of me wanted to hide, to return them to the dirt and pretend I'd never seen, I knew I couldn't. There was sorrow here too. Deep, aching sorrow, not just mine, but theirs. Their letters, their careful hiding, spoke of mistakes, love gone wrong, promises broken under fear. It dawned on me, this box wasn't only about betrayal. It was about protection, the lengths my children had gone to shield me, even as they concealed truths that would change everything. I sank into the armchair, clutching the letters, photos, and box itself. Outside, the wind whispered through the oak leaves, a mournful lullaby. Somewhere upstairs, Lily's laughter broke the tension like sunlight through clouds. I whispered softly, I see you. I understand now. Understanding didn't make it easier, not yet. I would have to confront this. Ask the questions that would open old wounds. Questions I'd feared for decades. But the box had chosen me, or perhaps I had chosen it, and there was no turning back. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the living room. I lit the lamp, its warm glow falling over the letters and photographs like a fragile halo. And for the first time in years, I felt both the weight of my life and a trembling hope that truth, even painful, might finally set us free. I whispered again, firmer, almost a promise. I will know. And I will forgive, if I can. I didn't sleep that night. The box sat on the bedside table, the letters and photographs spilling slightly from the envelope, as if impatiently urging me to read further. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the faces in those photographs. I heard voices I hadn't heard in years. The house felt different, smaller somehow, as if the walls had been hiding something from me all along. By morning, I knew I couldn't wait. I needed answers. But the thought of confronting my children made my chest tighten. Where would I even start? Michael. Sarah. I didn't know if I was ready for what they might say, or what they might refuse to say. Breakfast was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, loaded with unspoken tension. Lily and her brother, James, chatted happily about school, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. I forced a smile, tried to taste the syrup on my pancakes, but it was like chewing sand. Mom, Michael said, finally breaking the silence, you okay? I looked at him, studying his familiar features through a new lens. Every smile now seemed like a mask, every gesture deliberate. I found something, I said softly. Something I need to understand. And I need your honesty. He stiffened, but didn't leave the table. Mom, please. Some things, it's better not to dig. I shook my head. No, Michael. It's too late for that. The truth has already found me. Sarah entered then, carrying a mug of tea. She paused when she saw the box on the counter. Her face tightened ever so slightly, a flicker of fear, or maybe guilt. "What's that?" she asked, voice casual, but the tremor betrayed her. "It's a box I found in the garden," I said. "With my name on it." Her eyes widened just slightly, and she took a cautious step back. "Mom." I ignored the warning in her tone. Inside are letters. Photographs. Things I don't understand yet, but I intend to. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Michael's voice broke the silence, low and defensive. "Mom, these things, they're complicated. You weren't meant to know." We. I cut in sharply. "Who is we?" "All of you. All of my children." He hesitated, eyes dropping. "It was supposed to protect you. To protect the family. That's all." I stared at him, the years of maternal instinct and love clashing with the realization that my own children had hidden things from me, carefully, deliberately. "Protect me," I whispered. "By lying to me." Sarah stepped closer, hand lightly touching mine. "Mom, it wasn't meant to hurt you." We were scared. Scared. The word echoed in my mind. I remembered my own fears, the nights I had cried silently for them when they were young, the nights I had worried for their futures. And yet, fear had not excused deceit. I pushed the box toward them. "Read this. Tell me what all of this means." They exchanged glances, the kind of glance that carries decades of unspoken history. Then, slowly, Michael picked up a letter. His hands shook slightly as he unfolded it, and I felt a strange mix of anger and pity. As he read aloud, voices from the past began to surface. Names I had forgotten, promises I had made, mistakes I had witnessed but had never fully understood. The letters spoke of debts and alliances, choices made in desperation. I felt my chest tighten with every word. Some of it implicated people I had trusted, others revealed secrets I had never suspected. I thought of my mother, long gone now, who used to say, "The truth will find its way, whether you're ready or not." I had believed it then in a simple, naive way. Now, I understood the weight of her words. The truth wasn't simple. It was jagged, cutting, and unrelenting. Sarah took my hand, squeezing it. "Mom, we didn't know how else to handle it. We were scared you'd be angry." I closed my eyes. Angry? Yes, perhaps. But more than that, I feel betrayed. And I don't know if I can forgive just yet. James, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke, his young voice trembling. "Grandma, are we in trouble?" I looked at him, the youngest, innocent, the one whose life hadn't yet been complicated by secrets. My heart ached for him. "No, baby," I said softly. "But sometimes the people we love make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes hurt. But we have to face them." Michael's hands tightened on the letters. "Mom, you have to understand. None of us wanted to hurt you. We thought we were helping." I nodded slowly. "I understand fear. I understand intention. But I also understand consequences. And the consequences of hiding the truth are just now catching up to us." The tension in the room was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. I remembered the photographs in the box, the faces, the hidden moments. I felt the weight of years pressing down on my shoulders. And yet, amidst the fear and anger, there was a strange clarity. I could see them clearly now, not just my children hiding secrets, but humans, vulnerable, scared, trying to navigate a world that hadn't always been kind. I remembered the summer of 1978, long before they were born. I had discovered my husband's own secrets, letters from a life I hadn't known, a world outside our family that I'd never imagined. The heartbreak then had been sharp, raw, but I had survived. And perhaps, in surviving that, I could survive this too. I pushed the photographs toward Michael and Sarah. I need names. I need explanations. I need truth. They glanced at each other again, the same hesitant, guilty look that had haunted me for decades. And then, in halting voices, they began to speak. Sarah started first, describing encounters, choices made in desperation, mistakes they had tried to hide. Michael filled in gaps, his voice low, weighted with guilt. I listened, heart aching, stomach tight with tension. Every revelation was a blow, yet each also filled in missing pieces of the puzzle I hadn't realized I'd been assembling my entire life. Hours passed. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the living room. The children's voices slowed, the weight of confession settling over us. And finally, a silence fell, heavy but not empty. I looked at them, at the human faces of my children, and saw not just betrayal, but courage, the courage to speak, finally, even when it was difficult. I need time, I whispered. I can't forgive fully yet, but I can begin to understand. And perhaps, one day, we can heal. Michael nodded slowly. Sarah squeezed my hand. James, innocent and unaware of the full weight, leaned into me. I breathed in, letting the scent of old wooden letters fill me, and realized that truth, once uncovered, was not just painful, it was liberating. I still didn't know all the answers. There were gaps, shadows in the stories they told. But for the first time in years, the box was no longer a mystery. It was a beginning, a painful, fragile, necessary beginning. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the day settle in my bones. Outside, the wind rustled the oak leaves again, whispering secrets I could almost hear. I knew this was just the start. There would be questions tomorrow. Arguments, perhaps tears. And yet, I also knew that confronting the truth, no matter how painful, was the only way to protect what mattered most, family. And somewhere deep inside, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps we could survive this. Perhaps, after all the secrets and lies, we could still find each other again. I thought I had heard it all, that my children had confessed everything the letters and photographs had promised. But that night, as I sat alone with the box once more, I realized how little I actually knew. There was one envelope I hadn't opened. I had saved it for last, thinking it might be the easiest, a final piece to tie everything together. But when I lifted it from the box, a shiver ran through me. The envelope was heavier than the others, as if it carried more than paper, perhaps the weight of decades. My name was written again, but this time in a handwriting I almost recognized, the kind that made my chest tighten. With trembling hands, I unfolded the letter inside. The first line hit me like a physical blow. I never meant for you to find out. But now that you have, you must know the truth about your own blood. I froze. My blood. My own children. My heartbeat accelerated. I read on. The letter spoke of a decision made years ago, a secret so dark it had been buried alongside the metal box, carefully hidden from me, from everyone. My hands shook so violently I had to rest the paper on the table. It revealed that Michael, Sarah, and even James, though innocent at the time, had been involved in events I could barely comprehend. Financial deceit, whispered alliances, betrayals that had touched more than just our family, and, worse. Names of people I had trusted, friends I had loved, all intertwined with my own children's choices. I could feel the floor beneath me shift, though the house remained still. The air seemed heavier, thicker. Outside, the oak tree creaked under the wind, and for a moment, I imagined the branches as hands, pointing, accusing. I wanted to scream, to call for them, but no sound would have captured the fury and heartbreak rolling through me. Michael appeared then, quietly, as if he sensed the storm brewing inside me. "Mom, you're still up." I looked at him, letter clutched in my hand, and the weight of decades of maternal love, worry, and now betrayal pressed on me. "Michael, this," I said, waving the letter, "this changes everything." His eyes widened slightly. "Mom, please. Listen. It wasn't what it looks like. It wasn't what it looks like." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Michael, do you have any idea what it looks like to me? You and your siblings hiding this, letting me live in ignorance, thinking I wouldn't find out." He swallowed, hesitated. I was scared. We were scared. We thought we were protecting you. Protecting the family. I shook my head, vision blurring with tears. Protecting me. By lying. By hiding crimes that could destroy us. Sarah entered the room then, clutching her robe around her. Her face was pale, lips trembling. "Mom, it's not just our fault. There were choices, pressures we didn't understand. Decisions that were forced on us." I took a deep breath, the letter trembling in my hands. Forced? By whom? By what? Michael's voice faltered. By someone from the past. Someone you trusted. Someone we thought we had no choice but to obey. The words hit me like shards of glass. I remembered old friends, old acquaintances, the ones I had welcomed into our home, trusted with my family, never suspecting a single betrayal. Now the fog lifted, revealing shadows that had been hiding in plain sight. I sank into the armchair, feeling as though the room itself were closing in. So all these years, all these lies, they weren't just your doing. They've been manipulating us, using our love for you against us all. Sarah knelt beside me. Mom, we thought if we kept it hidden, we could stop the damage. We never imagined you'd find the box. We were terrified of losing you. Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to scream at them, at the world, at the past itself. But beneath the fury was an ache so deep, it almost broke me. The betrayal wasn't just theirs, it was mine too, for not seeing it sooner, for trusting blindly, for believing love alone could shield us from the worst of human choices. I lifted my head, staring at the ceiling, at the shadows dancing in the lamp's glow. Memories rushed in, nights spent worrying for them, laughing with them, scolding, comforting. And now, the reality of their hidden lives, of the compromises and mistakes, sat heavy in my chest. James, small and wide-eyed, crept into the room. "Grandma, are we in trouble?" His innocence cut through the tension, a reminder of what was still pure, untouched. I hugged him close, inhaling the scent of his hair, feeling the soft warmth of him against me. "No, baby. But sometimes the people we love make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes hurt. But we face them, together." Michael's voice, low and hesitant, filled the room. "Mom, you have to believe us. We didn't want this. We didn't want to hurt anyone." I nodded slowly, tears spilling freely now. "I believe that. I do. But believing doesn't erase the pain. And it doesn't erase the choices that were made without your full understanding, choices that still echo today." Silence fell again, heavy but not empty. The letter remained on the table between us, a silent witness to truths that had been too long buried. I thought of the rusted box in the garden, of the soil, the sun, the effort it had taken to hide all of this. And I realized, finally, that the box wasn't just a container of secrets, it was a mirror, reflecting everything we had refused to see in ourselves and each other. I closed my eyes and let the tears fall. "I don't know how to forgive yet," I whispered. "But I do know that hiding from it will never bring peace. The truth, however painful, must be faced. And if we want to survive this, we must face it together." Michael reached out, resting a tentative hand on mine. "Mom, can we try?" I looked at them all, at the faces I had raised, loved, and yet had barely understood. Yes, I said slowly, the word heavy with both sorrow and determination. We try. But we start with honesty. All of it. No more hiding. The night deepened, shadows long and soft across the room. Outside, the oak leaves whispered in the wind. I could almost hear the secrets carried in those branches, the echoes of the past brushing against us, demanding acknowledgement. And for the first time, I felt a fragile sense of control, not over the past, but over what we would do next. We spoke long into the night, piece by piece, memory by memory. The house seemed alive with our confessions, our explanations, our cries. Some revelations tore at my heart, some offered glimpses of understanding. By the time the lamp burned low, I felt both exhausted and strangely liberated. The weight of deception had begun to lift, replaced with the painful light of truth. I held the box in my hands once more. I could see it now for what it truly was, not a weapon, not a curse, but a bridge. A bridge between the lies we had lived with and the honesty we would have to embrace. And even in the ache of betrayal, I understood that we had a choice. To heal, or to let the secrets define us forever. I whispered into the quiet of the room, we start again tomorrow. With courage. With honesty. And maybe, with forgiveness. Outside, the wind stirred the branches again, a gentle, mournful song. I closed the box slowly, the letters resting inside. The storm of revelation was not yet over, but we had stepped into it together. And for the first time in years, I felt the faintest flicker of hope that, somehow, we could survive this, and even find each other again. The morning after our long night of confessions, the house felt quieter, heavier in some ways, yet lighter in others. Shadows still lingered in corners, but the weight of truth had shifted, settling into the spaces between us rather than crushing them. I sat at the kitchen table, the box from the garden in front of me once more, and for a long moment, I just breathed. Michael entered first, coffee in hand, eyes cautious. "Mom, you sure you're okay?" I looked at him, really looked at him, the boy I had raised, the man who had hidden so much from me, now sitting there with a raw, vulnerable honesty I hadn't seen before. "I'm as okay as I can be," I said. "But okay doesn't mean I'm not hurting." Sarah joined us, her hands folded on the table, her face pale but determined. "Mom. I'm sorry," she said softly. "For everything. I know words can't fix what we've done." I studied her, tracing the familiar curve of her jaw, the way her hair fell over one shoulder, the way her eyes darted away when she feared my judgment. "Sarah, it's not just your fault. It's ours. All of us. Secrets grow in silence. Fear grows in silence. And love, sometimes gets tangled up in it all." James peeked around the doorway, still hesitant, still afraid of storms he couldn't fully understand. I motioned for him to come closer. "Sit here, baby," I said, and he did, curling his small body into the chair beside me. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. That doesn't mean they stop loving you. And it doesn't mean the family can't find its way back." The air in the room felt heavy with unspoken questions. Finally, I took a deep breath, the scent of coffee and old wood grounding me, and said, "We need to talk about choices. About consequences. About forgiveness." Michael leaned forward, hands clasped. "Mom, we don't know how to start fixing this. We've carried it for so long, and now it's all on the table." I nodded slowly, thinking of the rusted box, the letters, the photographs, all the weight of the past resting in our living room. "We start with honesty," I said. "All of it. Every name, every action, every reason. No more hiding." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Mom." I was terrified. Terrified you'd hate us. Terrified we'd lose you. I reached across the table and took her hand. "You won't lose me," I said softly. But you can't hide from truth anymore. Hiding only delays the pain. We spoke for hours. Every word, every confession, every explanation peeled back layers of betrayal and fear, revealing a raw, trembling core of humanity beneath it all. Michael confessed mistakes he had tried to shield me from, choices made under pressure from people outside the family, alliances he had kept secret. Sarah revealed moments she thought I would never understand, decisions she had justified in her mind but never explained. And James, innocent, spoke only of fear, confusion, and the desire to be a good child in a family fractured by hidden truths. At one point, I had to stand and pace, the letters spread across the counter, photographs pinned to the fridge with magnets, each image and word a small dagger and a small healing simultaneously. The wind rattled the oak leaves outside, a mournful, whispering sound, and I realized the house itself had become a witness to our confessions. I need to know, I said finally, my voice firm but trembling. Why did no one come to me? Why did you all hide this? Michael's face tightened, the weight of guilt etched in every line. Mom, we were scared. We didn't know how to tell you. We didn't want to ruin what we thought was good, what we thought was safe. I felt the familiar ache of heartbreak. Safe? I whispered. Michael, safety isn't built on lies. Not in a family. Not anywhere. Love doesn't need secrets. It needs courage. Sarah nodded, tears spilling over. We'll try, Mom. We'll be honest from now on. We'll try to make things right. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes for a moment. Memory after memory rushed through me, the first day of school, scraped knees, quiet nights when I worried over their futures. All those moments I thought were simple, ordinary, now seemed tinged with shadow. And yet, amidst the pain, there was clarity. We could face this, together. The box still rested on the counter, rusted metal and secretive handwriting. I lifted it once more, feeling the weight in my hands, and realized it had served its purpose. Not as a weapon, not as a curse, but as a bridge. A bridge from deceit to truth, from fear to courage, from isolation to family. Michael reached out, tentative, and touched the edge of the box. Mom, can we? Yes, I said, meeting his eyes. We can face it together. Every piece, every story, every mistake. But we have to be honest. No more hiding. The day passed slowly, conversations overlapping, emotions raw. There were moments of anger, tears, and quiet reflection. Each revelation stung, but each also released us from the weight we had carried unknowingly for decades. By evening, exhaustion pulled at our bodies, but our hearts felt lighter, if fragile. I found a quiet moment alone, the children now playing outside in the yard, laughter ringing through the air, a sound I hadn't realized I had missed. I held the box in my lap one last time. The rusted metal, the worn edges, the letters carefully folded inside, it was more than an object. It was a testament. A reminder that life is complicated, that love is never simple, that family is built not just on shared blood but shared courage and honesty. I thought of my mother, who had taught me that secrets can suffocate, and of my husband, whose own hidden pains had shaped our lives in ways I had only just begun to understand. And I whispered, softly, into the fading light, I forgive you all. Not because everything is perfect, not because the pain disappears, but because love demands it. And we must live beyond the shadows we've carried for so long. Michael came into the room quietly, brushing leaves from his hair. Mom, you sure? I nodded. Yes. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. But it lets us choose our future. And I choose us. Sarah joined him, holding James's hand, and for a moment, we all sat together in the living room, quiet, feeling the weight of the past and the fragile light of what comes after. Later, I placed the box back in the garden, beneath the old oak tree. Not buried this time, but resting, a symbol. Anyone who found it in the future would know it had held secrets, but also courage, and eventually, truth. I pressed my hand to the metal and whispered, "We survived you. And we will continue." I walked back inside, the house warm and filled with the scent of evening. My children were laughing again, lighter now, free from the heavy silence that had haunted us. I realized that betrayal, while painful, had also taught us resilience. That honesty, once feared, had become a bridge, a lifeline. Sitting in my armchair, watching the oak leaves sway outside, I finally understood. Life doesn't always hand you clarity or comfort. Sometimes it hands you boxes in the garden, letters you were never meant to find, and secrets that fracture the heart. But it also hands you choices. The choice to forgive. The choice to love. The choice to keep going, together. And as the sun set, casting long shadows across the living room, I whispered one final thought to myself, a promise to the generations that would follow: no secret is worth more than love. No fear more than honesty. And no lie should ever outweigh the courage to face the truth. I closed my eyes, breathing in the warmth, the scents, the laughter, and for the first time in decades, I felt whole.